Hi, I'm Rich Anderson, a partner technology strategist within our global partner solutions at Microsoft. And today we wanted to talk to you about intelligent supply chains with utilizing AI solutions. At Microsoft, we have a holistic approach to creating a resilient supply chain. This includes numerous areas like supply chain visibility, planning and optimization, logistics and distribution, workforce transformation, supply chain trust, and most notably, what we're here to talk about today, AI-driven supply chain improvements. Next slide, please. So some key points on how AI is transforming the supply chain industry with technology. Enhanced forecasting and demand planning. AI-driven demand and forecasting uses machine learning to analyze historical data, market trends, and external factors like weather and competitor pricing. Also, predictive maintenance. AI can predict when machinery and equipment are likely to fail, allowing for timely maintenance and support. Supply chain optimization. AI algorithms optimize supply chain processes, including planning, factory scheduling, and transportation planning. There's also real-time visibility and monitoring. AI systems provide real-time insights into supply chain operations, enhancing visibility, enabling quick responses to disruptions. Also, automation and autonomous systems. AI enables the automation of routine tasks such as order processing and inventory management. It also supports risk management. AI helps identify potential risks and disruptions in the supply chain, allowing companies to proactively mitigate them. Here today we have EPAM and two wonderful speakers in Ankur and GP to talk about their solution. AI and advanced technologies don't guarantee supply chain resilience, but they are critical enablers to support organizations' journey towards self-healing supply chains. These technologies are essential in navigating the complexities and vulnerabilities inherent in modern supply chains. The current global landscape, marked by volatility and extensive threats, underscores the necessity for these technological supports in facilitating swift, informed decision-making and proactive risk management. Many organizations have already initiated their journeys toward embedding these capabilities. EPAM is here today to show this audience how strategic, small-scale actions can converge towards resilient vision of self-healing supply chains. They will dig into practical applications that detect potential disruptions, accelerate and guide you through incremental advancements towards robust, self-correcting supply chains equipped with proactive risk sensing. And with that, I'll kick it over to Ankur and GP from EPAM.
Thank you, Rich. Hi, folks. This is GP Singh here from EPAM's Consumer Services Industries Consulting Division. So let me give you a quick context here. So it has been interesting past 5 years for consumer industries with COVID, USMCA, and now best of all, the tariff. And let's not forget the evergreen container ship that got stuck in Suez Canal and disrupted not only the whole industry, but all of us are still feeling the impact on our wallet. These events impact product availability, and in turn, the pricing and promotions get impacted. Not only this, but also marketing campaigns get severely impacted because they are locked much in advance. So what is the so what coming out of this? For that, let me pass this on to Ankur from a supply chain consulting, who will share the leading thinking from what's coming out of this from a so what perspective and what we need to work on to manage and mitigate these events.
Thank you, GB. Hi, everyone. I'm part of the supply chain consulting practice. As GP mentioned, there are different kind of supply chain disruptions happening, and the disruptions are growing. The volatility is growing. Why does it impact our supply chains or within organization? Is because even when you look at Gartner's Magic Quadrant, there are 10 Magic Quadrants which cover bulk of the supply chain capabilities. So effectively, the supply chain landscape of the solution is really vast and quite complex. Now, what happens is if there was a single way or some set of solutions which could have solved this particular problem, which could have enabled faster, better decisions in supply chain, companies would have procured that and companies would have implemented it. It's a collection of different technologies coming together and along with the right processes and the right skill set, which enable this kind of self-healing supply chain capabilities. And that's an idea which we're going to share today, along with some of the examples and one small video which talks about the different solutions coming together to provide self-healing supply chain capabilities.
So, in this case, what is the way out? Can you share what is self-healing supply chain and explain ideally through an example?
Let's talk about some examples around it. There are definitely different kind of weather events happening across the globe. We take for an example of the case of Florida. Different hurricanes have been seen in Florida in the last couple of years. Now, when hurricanes are coming in, there's obviously some set of information provided in terms of what would be a potential hurricane's path. When we think about self-healing supply chain, looking at the hurricane's path, we were able to determine what would be the distribution centers of the supply chain, which could be part of that path, and which customers are supposed to be available or present who would be serviced by this distribution center. So, identifying emerging risks based on the further events which are coming in, determining the potential impacts, which would be in terms of which customers would be impacted by that. And now the next step that came is in terms of identifying if my distribution centers which are in the path would be disrupted, they would not be able to supply this particular products. Are there any others distribution centers available in the vicinity which can service the customers? Also, do the customers have enough sufficient stock available to maintain or to ensure that if the delivery does not happen on time, they are able to service their end consumers? And then once we have this information available, taking those trade-off decisions and taking corrective actions around it. It could be in terms of rerouting the existing shipments which are going to the distribution centers in the path of the hurricane, even moving inventory from distribution centers to the customer's location, even talking to the customer so that they are able to purchase or add more inventory to their locations. So there are different set of actions to be taken by identifying proactively the kind of risks which are emerging and taking those actions. And some of these activities could be done by with the help of technology and different solutions coming together.
So, this sounds exciting but also complex. Do we need a large scale transformation program and do we need dedicated resources to make it happen?
In this case, yes, the solution itself is quite complex, but it does not need to run a large scale transformation program. You can literally start with a small scale approach, pick out some specific set of solutions while keeping in mind the future vision. If you think about self-healing supply chain, there could be some actions to be taken at a demand forecasting level. Some action could be taken at the inventory redeployment level, some action at the execution level, and even some actions in terms of the supplier management. So different phases could be done. Actions could be broken down into small set of initiatives, which could finally reach the vision that we are looking for. And we can divide that into three phases. Phase number one is providing the visibility of the critical sections within the supply chain. So when we think about the same example of Florida, even having the visibility that there is a hurricane and there are some locations in the path of the hurricane could be the step one in this case. The second step could be which distribution centers are the impacted centers and which are the customers which would be impacted by this. That becomes the second factor to it. And then providing these kind of alerts to the right individuals who are supposed to take any action to that, or even making those minor changes in terms of the manual activities, removing that and moving into process automation. So picking out these small areas, moving into the next phase. As within supply chain, you have to look at end-to-end supply chain visibility. So once you have picked up and created visibility for different set of areas, how can we add other details to provide that end-to-end visibility? Second is supply chain currently is focused a lot on internal data set. But what if we are able to get details about these kind of external factors which are impacting us in terms of demand forecasting, impacting the organizations, and then using that information to either update the demand forecast, plan for any other changes in execution. And the third set is when we think about the kind of data which they're using in either in Excel or creating the kind of ad hoc reports which are required so that they can take those decisions or trade-offs. And that's an area where probably you with use of LLM, it could be required and the talk to your data feature could be enabled to provide that kind of insights to them in a much faster and better way. And once we have buttoned down these kind of activities, the last step comes in terms of covering it with either adding some kind of agentic AI solutions. There are different ones which are going to come across in the next few slides. And then also once we have implemented the process automation, how can we embed some level of intelligence into it by adding that level of threshold so that some decisions could be taken proactively by the systems without any help required, and for the rest they have to go to the humans or the actual owners of the organization for taking those set of actions. And this things coming together can provide the level of self-healing supply chain or responsive supply chain which an organization would be looking for. Now, When we get into the self-healing supply chain aspect, and when we talk about one of the examples, it could be about embedding the agentic AI solutions that we have. And that's where having some set of agents which are looking at those minor set of automations, getting into how these agents can function with each other, and then how they can support the existing organization or the function, supply chain function. One such example could be the forecasting replenishment, taking in 5 different kind of agents. One agent focused on signal detection, second one which is fetching data from external data points, identifying what would be the impact within the supply chain, looking at how it could be utilized for updating the demand forecast, then using that information for identifying whether inventory is available at the right place at the right time for the right activities, using that information for identifying the right product allocation as well as releasing the orders on time, and then taking that information all in for identifying or looking at how the warehouse management system or transportation systems could be implemented for the dynamic changes which are coming in due to the signals which are changing. When we look at this entire system, everything comes together wherein they are taking inputs from either real-time web searches or even using items which are outside the supply chain more in terms of the customer segmentation. And there's a continuous feedback loop which goes on. Let's dive into one of the examples, which is more focused on an inventory agent. Let's double click on one of the inventory agent and how that agent, which is an always on agent, can take input from different data sets. It could be taking input from demand forecast, current promotions which are planned, active promotions going on right now, or even the current inventory, fetch data and take some set of reasoning internally to determine the trade-offs, provide that information to the inventory planners and the demand planners so that they can take some specific set of actions. It could be taking actions within the transaction systems or even ensuring that right alerts are going in. So fetching that information, taking that, doing that analysis, even fetching some data from the external solutions, and then finally going in and taking certain actions. Some actions could be directly within the system or providing some alerts to start the conversation. And then again, this could be broken down further. The agent could probably start by looking at the existing excess and obsolescence inventory, but later on even look at redeploying the existing inventory later in cases where a finished good might be necessary as a raw material for another site or another subsidiary. Now let's get into one of the short videos which talks about the point of view how different systems or solutions could come together. So we will get into a risk control tower, we'll get into a digital twin, we'll also get into how these two items would be connected together as well as the vehicle tracking systems. So having these solutions coming together to provide the right visibility to the organization, to proactively identify and make changes within the supply chain systems to give the right level of efficiency.
Our control tower flags a confirmed risk of a 30-day shipping delay for T-shirts caused by worsening drought conditions in the Panama Canal. I can go into details of this confirmed risk. The system analyzes historical trends and provides 3 scenarios designed to mitigate it. Decision intelligence highlights the most preferred scenario, in this case, to move shipment from Mexico to Los Angeles. I can action this scenario immediately. Once tactical actions are completed, I move my attention to strategic emerging risks. I see information about a water crisis in Vietnam that could affect production soon. The system uses historical data and Gen AI to suggest a detailed action plan, which I can assess and update if needed. Then I can start acting on mitigations. And if I want to understand the current situation better, I can access the latest external information around this emerging risk. The tactical risk caused by the Panama Canal drought creates concerns. Once the shipment arrives, the warehouse will be at full capacity. With the help of the warehouse digital twin, I can analyze the situation, identify scenarios to help me rearrange the inventory, and make room for this shipment. Using computer vision, the system continuously monitors material flow in the warehouse and alerts for jammed boxes, helping maintain throughput efficiency. But it's not just about material flow. As we race against the clock, the system scans for near misses and safety breaches, keeping our teams out of harm's way. By shifting from reactive to proactive approaches and replacing guesswork with data-driven decisions, AI technology has fundamentally transformed our supply chain.
How do we make it real? So we make it real in terms of defining what are the specific smaller use cases and the projects we have done across different industries and different clients. And if you break it down into different buckets, you can break it down into 4. For example, sensing, planning and shaping, responding, as well as sustaining. When we talk about the sense aspect, it could be in terms of creating a small scale solution which would be utilized for sensing the demand and providing information in terms of the illness as an early warning system to a medical distributor who can help in improving the forecast. It is also something which could be utilized by the consumer health companies. The second sector is where we created an end-to-end supply chain risk control tower, which was identifying this kind of external risks from 43 different weather alerts and using that information to determine how the inventory redeployment could happen, even monitoring all the risk cases which are emerging and keeping a risk management workflow within the system. So having one single place where every end-to-end supply chain team could go in, look at what are the risks which are emerging within their section, and then take actions, hand over the risk to another team for taking subsequent actions. The next step was more around planning and shaping, and that's where we looked at different set of items. It could be in terms of looking at a simple track and trace solution, starting off with an assessment on what data was available, because it's not as if that companies are starting on this journey from scratch. They would already have subsystem in place, and they're using that systems, and they want to bridge the gap in terms of what is missing to create that end-to-end visibility. The second sector is even identifying some specific set of AI/ML models which could help in terms of collaborative planning. So again, focusing on small scale solutions. And then our next one would be in terms of either prioritizing the supplier risks to support the CPFR meetings or in terms of the forecasting and pricing related changes. The next one is in terms of response. So again, when we look at supply chain execution, there could be an option of warehouse digital twin. So which digital twin would make more sense for us? Is it terms of manufacturing or warehousing? So that's where some sort of work has been done. The next set of work has been done done in terms of comprehensive execution system being set up from scratch for a company which was not comfortable using the existing systems. And the last one is a small scale computer vision solution which was utilized for automating or improving the work of pallet counting and stock verification. And the last one is companies have been interested in focusing on supply chain sustainability. So before we even get into sustainability, providing them information on visibility on the exact pieces within their supply chain where they can capture scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, get into the granular details of the greenhouse emissions all the way to the per cup or to the per SKU level. And that requires us to create a data model as well as tracking the data across different sets of supply chain. If you want to know more about these solutions to dive deeper into these cases with us, we are happy to help. You can reach out to us on this particular email ID. You can talk to us on LinkedIn as well. GP and I are both available. And thank you so much.